to another edition of the Mark You Down for a Cup of Joe podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Joe.
And today we're going to be talking about a little dumpster fire out there in the NFL, the dumpster fire of the week. Quite possibly the dumpster fire of the year, Joseph brought to my attention, because this has potential for that. But let's get right into it. Joseph, who are we talking about this week?
We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. The
Man,
dumpster
that's a
fire.
hot take.
This is the fire that all the homeless people are sitting around right now. This is that kind of dumpster fire, Mark. Things do not look good in Pittsburgh right now.
No, and this dumpster fire has the potential to grow larger and who knows, maybe catch another dumpster on fire, and it can be a double dumpster fire in Pittsburgh. It's kind of a mess right now, but let's get into it.
Well,
Joseph,
that's a
let's
fiery
start.
take right there.
You know me, I'm always spitting flames, so but the fire is truth, and the truth is that Big Ben is going to be out for the rest of the season with an elbow injury. Joseph, let's just start with that. Talk about Big Ben's absence and what that means for this football team just this year. So, Joseph, what do you think?
I think the biggest thing they're losing in Big Ben right now is his presence. There's something about a veteran quarterback like Big Ben who has been in the league for a while, who's been to a couple of Super Bowl, who is a Super Bowl winner. There's something different having him on the field compared to him sitting on the sideline with an injury. It's a little bit demoralizing, I think, for the other guys around him. Even though he may not have been playing the best football of his career these first two games, I think you're losing a very, very big leadership presence on this team right now. He's not going to be out there rallying the troops.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the other side of it, the play on the field. Their backup is a rookie. This team, you and I have both soured on it because of that Patriots game, which may be a little bit unfair, but, their rookie quarterback I don't think is really going to lead them to a lot of victories this year. They don't have a guy like Le'Veon Bell anymore. They don't have an Antonio Brown. They have a lot of younger guys. Or James Conner. He went down. A lot of younger guys on this team who are also going to be paired with a younger quarterback. I don't know how this is going to work out. Like, honestly, I can see them winning one or two games this year without Big Ben. Like, that's the kind of team they are. I think it's going to be really hard for them to stay in games and compete. Yeah, they were in that Seattle game, but Big Ben played quite a bit. Mason Rudolph didn't look bad at all, but I mean, he is still a rookie. Give him a few weeks and let's see what he's doing against, defenses. I think they have the potential to be a really bad team, and that'll segue us into our next segment. Their lack of a first-round pick.
No, you were gonna dive right into that. I was going to be, before we get into that, I was going to be as bold to say that this dumpster fire started as soon as last season ended. There were a couple of things that happened that I think have really led into this bonfire of a dumpster that we have right now. Le'Veon Bell left, Antonio Brown left, now Big Ben's down. And a lot of those guys that they were counting on, Juju Smith, James Conner, I know it's early in the season, but they have not looked good so far. They haven't stepped up to become the number ones like the Pittsburgh Steelers were hoping them to be. And then they go and trade for a cornerback. I'll let you go take that, Mark.
All right, so Minkah Fitzpatrick, a very good player. Let me not take anything away from Minkah. He was one of my favorite players in last year's draft. He can play safety or corner, slot corner kind of thing, big physical. I actually thought he might have been the best player in the draft when all was said and done from last year. So let's get that out of the way. Nothing against Minkah Fitzpatrick. But, in light of Big Ben's injury news, I don't understand the decision to get rid of your first-round pick the year your franchise quarterback is hurt and really, really get it like a safety, this is the opportunity where a team who, has a franchise quarterback who's a little bit older, a little bit more advanced in his career, a guy who has, by the way, contemplated retirement over the past few years publicly. He could leave him hanging high and dry after this year. Maybe he doesn't want to rehab and come back. Or, when are the Pittsburgh Steelers going to be in this position again? This perfect opportunity to where their team's going to be bad enough they're going to be able to get a quarterback. They're not going to be there. And now this year becomes so much harder because you can't lose. You lose and you give Miami 2 top 5 picks, realistically. I just don't understand the direction here, Joe.
Yeah, I don't either. And I think you covered it right there. They traded away their shot at another franchise quarterback. Even if Big Ben comes back next year, which, like you said, he may leave him out hanging to dry. He may just say, I'm done. He may pull an Andrew Luck on the Steelers. And if that's the case, you don't have anyone to step up and fill in for him. Doesn't really like they have. It looks like they're really relying on Big Ben coming back next year, and they're really relying on, I don't know what else they're relying on, to be quite honest. It does not look good right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, it does not look good. But Joseph, I guess if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, like, where do you go from here? You have Mason Rudolph starting. You got a really stud player in your defensive backfield. I mean, what do you do? Is this the opportunity you take to maybe, if you're not happy with Mike Tomlin after this year, clean house? Is this going to be a rebuild moving forward? I mean, what do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers should do with what they've already done right now?
By trading away that first round pick for that corner, I still think they're in a win now type of mode. And it may not be this year, but I still think they're thinking of time. They're still thinking of the future with Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback. And they may not be able to have a good year this year. They may take this as a year to see what they have in. Is it Mason Rudolph? Is that his name?
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I get that right. They may take this as a year to see what they have in Mason Rudolph, see if he can be the guy once Big Ben is done. And if he isn't, maybe use Big Ben for the next 2 years and look for another guy. Maybe that's kind of what they're looking for. Maybe that's their route. I just don't really understand what's going on, because I feel like if you wanted to see what you had in Mason Rudolph, you maybe shouldn't have traded away your first round pick in case he isn't the guy. You could have gone and used that on some of the top quarterbacks in this draft. I think this is going to be another good quarterback draft.
Yeah, do you think maybe some of this has to do with Pittsburgh's delusions? I mean, like, as crazy it is to say, Pittsburgh has been a pinnacle franchise for pretty much ever. They've pretty much been able to put good football teams on the field throughout their history for the most part. Do you think maybe this is just Pittsburgh saying, it doesn't really matter, we're that good of an organization, we trust ourselves this much? What do you think about that?
That could be part of it. Maybe they've gotten comfortable sitting at the top of the division the past 2 years, and they may be under the assumption that they can just go and do that again this year with whoever they throw out there. But I think with the way the other teams are playing in the division, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to walk away with this division, even if they had a healthy Big Ben. The Baltimore Ravens are playing fantastic football right now. I wholeheartedly believe that this is their division to lose right now.
No, I believe that too, and I don't really think any of the teams in the division are an easy out. You've still got Cincinnati, who can, score with Andy Dalton and John Ross at the very least. The Browns, they, if nothing else, have a stud defense, a pretty good defense. Even if Baker Mayfield isn't playing well, like, I'd venture to say that right now Pittsburgh might be the worst team in the division without Big Ben. I don't know if you agree with me there.
I agree with you there, Mark.
Man, so this is actually kind of a really, really scary situation for a Pittsburgh fan. I think, like, you're going to have to buckle in if you're a Pittsburgh fan, because this has the potential to be like something, you're really bad for a really long time, because, it's like that thing the New York Giants did a few years ago in the draft, where they had the number 2 pick and opted for Saquon Barkley instead of one of those quarterbacks, like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, or Josh Rosen. When you're in that position to take a quarterback, I think you have to do it. Because especially if you're one of those franchises that are pretty competitive, you don't really have many of those opportunities. So when you do have a down year like that, you have to take advantage because, I mean, franchise quarterbacks, as you know, are just such a valuable commodity. You know,
Yeah.
they're not going to pass. They're not going to get passed up. You know, even guys who look like their third round picks might be artificially bumped up into the first round. So, man, Pittsburgh, I don't know what they're doing. But Joseph, I guess let's end on a positive note. What do you see Pittsburgh's ceiling being this year for wins? And do you think they could compete potentially for a wild card spot?
You know, as of right now, I set their ceiling. I may even be being generous here, Mark. I set their ceiling at maybe 4, maybe 5 wins. I don't see them winning that much more. I'm gonna say about 4 wins.
Man,
Um,
that's crazy, isn't it?
yeah, you know they're 0-2 right now. They don't have Big Ben. They have a rookie quarterback going in there. Things just do not look good. Things do not look good for him right now.
No, I agree with you. I think at the max they can win 6 games maximum, but that would be really generous. Really, that's just me putting a lot of faith in that organization more than anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, Joseph. Actually, here's one last question for you. And feel free to think about it a little bit. Mike Tomlin, he's been there for a long time, and he's had a lot of scrutiny, a lot of criticism. Do you think Mike Tomlin's earned enough, I don't know, stature within that organization to really not be on the hot seat if they only win 2 or 3 games this year?
You know, I think with this type of injury to Big Ben, I think he'll be safe for this season going into next season. Um, I think they're gonna give him the benefit of the doubt because of the success that he has had in Pittsburgh. Um, and I think next year when you have Big Ben back, when you have him healthy, when you have some of these other guys back, I think that's when we may see Mike Tomlin start getting put on the hot seat a little bit.
Hmm. I actually think this year has potential for Mike Tomlin to be on the hot
No.
seat. And yeah, this is a very hot take, and I know that Pittsburgh doesn't go through a lot of, head coaches. They've only ever had 3. I'm not saying he gets canned after this year. I'm just saying he's probably going to be on the hot seat. And the reason I think this is because this Big Ben injury, I'm going to take it the opposite way. I'm going to think that ownership is going to look at Mike Tomlin and think he might not be that great of a coach. I mean, they might think that Big Ben's been the guy who's been carrying them, who's been able to put them in the playoffs every year and do all these spectacular things, make runs. Because when you look at it, Mike Tomlin, he's a defensive head coach, and when has his defense ever really been that good? Like in the past 3-4 years, it really hasn't, and I think it has the potential to get exposed. I think he wasn't necessarily the best X's and O's guy, and without Big Ben, I think a lot of his weaknesses are exposed. So I think ownership might take a look at him and say, maybe this isn't the guy moving forward in the future. Maybe this whole thing's run its course, and we need to go younger. We need to get an offensive guy or something. I just see there's some potential there. I wouldn't be too surprised if we hear some hot seat talk about Mike Tomlin after this year, especially if they only win 2 or 3 games. I mean, because that never happens in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, that is a
So,
very, very. I'm gonna be honest. That's a very hot take right there.
but I think it is a valid take nonetheless. But I do think that organization is patient. I ultimately don't think they'll move on from this year, but look into next year. Look at how they perform with or without Big Ben, and I think we could be looking at Pittsburgh getting a new coach. So, anything else you want to add about the dumpster fire? It all comes full circle. Hot seat dumpster fires in Pittsburgh.
I have nothing to add here, Mark. I think we covered a lot of it.
All right, perfect. So I will say this is one of the more interesting teams, and I will keep my eye on them, see what they do. But anyways, that's going to close us for another edition of the Mark You Down for a Cup of Joe podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell us if you think Pittsburgh is a dumpster fire and how you think they're going to rebuild this thing or come back to being a competitive football team. But anyways, we are signing off. This has been Mark.
I'm Joe.
And thank you so much for listening. You guys have a good evening.